What's going on? You're in the Beat Sessions. I'm your host, Mitchell Weary. It's Friday, August 19th. Hope the week has been good to all of you. Want to kick the weekend off with Silversun Pickups and their new record, Physical Thrills. This is the band's sixth studio album and their follow-up to 2019's Widow's Weeds. And before I begin this review, a disclaimer, because I know that there are a handful of you out there who know how I feel about this band and who may even accuse me of being a little biased going into this thing. But I assure you, for the integrity of the channel, took a very objective look at this record, listened to it twice. There's a lot to like here. There's a lot to like about this band in general. However, when it comes to lead singer Brian O'Bear, I can't bear the sound of his voice. I just cannot do it. I cannot get behind it. And he falls into that category of a handful of lead singers out there that I feel this passionately about. Claudio from Coheed and Cambria is another example. And I don't bring both of these guys up to rag on them or to argue that they're bad musicians. In fact, I think the opposite about them. I think that both of them have been making music for decades. Both of them have millions of fans out there, a ton of success. There's solid musicianship there. And that's ultimately what bums me out about listening to their music. I think when we look at that nasally vocal style, it's an interesting case study. You have a peculiar musical element in a song and the way that it affects different people. I've had so many discussions with friends and strangers alike over the years, and it's fascinating to hear what people are drawn to as far as that nasally style and what turns them off. The guy behind me on the poster is a really good example. He's someone that won my heart over years ago, but how many people do you know that don't listen to Bob Dylan because they just don't think he's a good singer? I know quite a few. I think it's a fascinating case study. It's something I'd like to look into more in the future, but I would certainly argue that the cadence coming from these different nasally vocal elements affect us all differently. And so I would never argue that any of them are bad. They just don't appeal to me or resonate with me the way that I want them to. But when you talk about Silversun Pickups, you look at their music. They've been making great alternative indie rock for 2 decades now. Their early records especially. I love how guitar-driven they are, and it's been interesting watching the progression of this band and how they've incorporated more of an electronic element into their music. But you talk about a nasal vocal style and you talk about the progression of the band. I cannot help but think of a guy like Brian Molko from Placebo, who, that guy's amazing. I love his nasally vocal element. I love what he does lyrically, the somewhat kind of dark and seedy territory that he navigates with his lyrics. And there's just this sinister sort of cadence to what he's doing sonically with his voice. I love the man. Plus, he's a monster on guitar. If you've never seen Placebo live, you need to check that band out. But this album and this band, Silversun Pickups, I feel like there's this big inspiration from Placebo, and then I hear a band like My Bloody Valentine. You're getting a bit of that shoegaze influence on, this record and in other records. And I love both of those elements there. And that's ultimately what bums me out about listening to this band, is that overall, sonically, I love where they're headed and where they're going. I just really don't appreciate what Brian brings to the table with his voice. So that's just my opinion on that, unfortunately. I'm trying not to think about that as much with this review. Again, keeping it objective. I do want to applaud Nikki Moninger, for her efforts on bass on this record. She's outstanding to listen to. Her tone, the riffs, from start to finish, she's sick. She is such a pleasure to listen to, and it's one of the things that really thrilled me about this record. But I got to say, from an objective criticism, this thing, 14 tracks with a 53-minute runtime, it feels a little bloated. There are 3 tracks on here. They're Dream at Tempo. You got 50 and then 310 and then 150 respectively as the album progresses. But these 3, they're essentially interludes. Dream at Tempo 150 is the last track on the record, so you get an outro there basically. But you're talking about 5 minutes of space on this record. That could tick this thing down to 48 minutes. And then there are a number of tracks that I feel could go. The big one is System Error. Your 8th track, I feel is so forgettable. And you have about arguably like a 4-minute runtime on here. This thing, a double LP, in my opinion, unnecessarily. I think that this album could have been much more concise, much more direct from start to finish. And it's unfortunate the way that it lingers and the way that it does feel sort of bloated. It kicks off with Stillness, My Way Beyond. Your first track has this gentle acoustic riff to open up. And I like that about this record as well. You get a big acoustic guitar-driven influence on a lot of these songs, balanced with other electric guitar components. There's some other electronic components. A lot of different stuff at play here on this record. But I love how strong the presence of the acoustic guitar is on this album. This song is going to kick in with this very interesting and sinister melody. I like the big drums. They stay light but maintain this ambience. The song, honestly, it feels like what A Perfect Circle was doing with 13th Step, their second record, especially in the bass, applauding Nikki. And, Twiggy Ramirez played on that record for A Perfect Circle, and I love his bass playing style, and there's definitely some similarities there that I was digging. Sticks and Stones, your second song, brings this brighter feel to the record, grounded in that acoustic riff again. Honestly, this is a track that I feel should kind of go, though. Wasn't really that strongly impressed by that particular track. Hereafter, Way After is your third song. Danceable indie rock. It's got this piano that gives the song a post-punk feel that I really enjoyed. This is the first solid moment of the record that I would argue. Dream at Tempo 50 is your fourth track. You get that interlude that I feel is very forgettable. And then I'm just a big fan of this stretch of the record right here. Songs 5, 6, and 7. Your fifth song, Scared Together, is just a solid upbeat rocker. I really like the way that it picks up pace around the second minute. Excellent track. Alone on a Hill, your sixth song. Piano and drums usher in a mellow, dark composition. This has a great melody, great feel. I really like the way that these two songs come together and give this album some continuity at this point. Hidden Moon, your seventh song. Great rocker, bit of a breakbeat element too in the percussion that I dig. It reminds me of Radiohead, in particular the song I Might Be Wrong, which definitely dig that track. And it's not exactly there, but there's definitely a hint of it in that song that I enjoyed. System Air is your eighth song that I already ragged on. Not really going to go into that too much. Empty Nest, your ninth song. This is a nice moment on the record, and it's a bummer that it takes 8 tracks to get here, but there is some good stuff along the way, as I've stated, and reverberating guitar on the song. It's very pop driven too. I like the up-tempo melody. This is one of those songs, though, too, that it feels like in the hands of someone else or maybe with another production team could have been something better still. And that's another thing that I struggle with on some of these compositions. As much as I liked sonically what was going on, I felt very critical of it still while I was listening to it. Dream at Tempo 310, your 10th track, another interlude there. We Won't Come Out is your 11th song. Classic pop feel. I love the way that it's a very nuanced element to this song, but you feel it right from the beginning, kind of like a bossa nova feel to it as well. But there's excellent guitars in this song. Turns rocking around 2.5 minutes into it, and then it backs off a little bit, and that'll kick back into the end. But this is another highlight I feel on the record. I would have loved to have had more songs built like this. Stay Down, Way Down, your 12th track. It's heavy electric guitar. It's I really like the way that is contrasted with the acoustic guitar. Another great example of the way that acoustic element is very strong there, and it's balanced with other elements. Get a nice breakbeat feel to that song again. Once again, excuse me. And then your 13th song, Quicksand, minimal vocal. I really like the way that vocal drives the song in the intro. This song is going to build and really pick up around 2 minutes and 30 seconds, and nice finish on that track. Pretty solid penultimate track. And then Dream at Tempo 150 is your outro. I'm not really a fan of ending records with outros or like little interlude style things like that. It's just a preference of mine, a personal thing, but I really would argue that this album could have been tight and just solid from start to finish. But there are so many moments of filler and so many moments where I just feel production failed to really deliver continuity, and I find that disappointing. And so outside of the fact that I don't care for Brian's voice, I think that for a band that's on their 6th record that has a good number of years of experience under their belt, this effort, it feels sloppy. It's unfortunate, and I'm going to have to definitely give this thing a vinyl pass. I hope you find this review helpful. I hope that if you're a fan that this album appeals to you and you enjoy it. Like I said, those different nasally voices, there's different cadences coming off those, and it's no wonder that in all the conversations that I've had over the years, there's such a wide variety of artists that people dig in that regard. So if this is your band, I hope you enjoy this new effort. Please like this video, share it, subscribe to the channel, do all the things to help me blow this project up in 2022. Stay tuned throughout the week for more album reviews. We will see you next time on the Beat Sessions.